tell me a little bit about your daughter Emma?
Emma was my youngest. I had two boys, Ben and Anthony, and then I had Emma. When she was in year one, when she was sick, she started getting sick, and we brought her to the hospital, and she was diagnosed with a brainstem glioma. Initially, they basically told us that she would die. They were trying to do several treatments. She had radiation, she had surgery, and she had chemo. She survived for 19 months. We had a few stints in hospital. But yeah, that's Emma. But beautiful little girl, loved life, loved everyone. Yeah.
What kind of stuff did she like to do?
She loved babies. All she ever wanted was a baby brother or sister, particularly a brother. And I've since had two more boys, so she's got her wish. When Starlight came on board, her only wish was to have a real baby. She was obsessed with dolls, as in she would have them as babies, so we always had to have a pram or a doll. She was a very caring little girl. She always looked after her brothers, and she loved everyone, so yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the period of treatment that she had?
Yeah, she was diagnosed in March of 2006, and initially they did tell us they could do nothing for her, and they were going to see if radiation could shrink the tumour to prolong her life. That was all we were told. The radiation went very well, better than expected. So in the August, we were told that she could have surgery, and then in the September, she had her the tumour debulked, and that went even better. We got results that it was a benign tumour, and that we probably could have her for a long time. There would be medical implications along the way, but who cared? We had Emma, and I always, deep down, I always thought that I would always have Emma. I never, even when they told us she was going to pass, I never believed them, and I always thought she'd get through it. So after the surgery, we were ecstatic. We had a 10-week stint in hospital, which was hard, but that was okay because I could deal with that. We had our normal 3 monthly visits, and we were told that she would have to have at least 2 years with nothing happening, and then, you know, we could then look for the future. I think it was about the June the next year, I started noticing that she was wobbly again, and her right foot was going in, and that was one of the initial triggers of her diagnosis. And we brought her back to hospital, and the tumour had started growing again. There were really no options left then. We did try chemo, which didn't really work, and then she passed in November of 2007. So
do you remember when your treating team first talked about palliative care?
Initially when Emma started radiation, so that probably would have been 2 or 3 weeks after she was diagnosed. The social worker arranged a meeting with our doctor, the oncology doctor, to speak about palliative care. I still remember that meeting because my husband just didn't react the way I thought he should be reacting. I knew what palliative care was because I had a grandmother who was quite ill, and the palliative care team came on board. And he was kind of answering it a bit blasé, and I thought, doesn't sound right, his responses. And when we walked out, I said to him, do you know what palliative care was? And he really didn't have a good concept of what it was. And when I explained it to him, I think, yeah, he actually realised the seriousness of what we're talking about.
So at the time, what was your understanding of palliative care?
Palliative care to me it's a team of people that come in to help you, support you when the patient is terminal. And looking at their last stage of life, bringing in tools that may help you where they want to pass away, and yeah, just things like that to help you.
And was that reflective of your experience with palliative care?
Yeah, because of I think initially they didn't think Emma would survive that long. She did survive 19 months. So although initially after 3 or 4 weeks, we didn't actually come across the subject of palliative care until about a year and a bit later. And I must say they're wonderful people. We laughed with them, we cried with them. They also helped us basically work through what we wanted to do for Emma at her last stage of life, and also little things like doing handprints on cardboard for her and stuff like that. So little things I might not have actually thought to do. Really helpful.
And in thinking about sort of what you wanted for Emma towards the end of her life, what were some of the decisions that you had to make?
Well, we did go and look at Bear Cottage, but just due to the location, we felt it was a bit too far away for us and it wasn't home. So we decided that we would like to have Emma home. And we'd been to see her doctor, I think 3 days before she passed, and this was in November. And they were talking about we might get to Christmas. So that was a big goal for us to get to Christmas. She had a reaction on the Sunday night. That was on the Thursday night we had the appointment with the doctor. On the Sunday night, she got a bit sick. So off I go again in the car and we come down to the hospital. I thought it'd be a couple of days and we'd come home again. But she passed away in the hospital on the Tuesday. In saying that, sorry. Although we weren't home, they arranged for us to have a private room in the CT ward, the commercial travellers ward, and we have spent a lot of time there. So the nurses and doctors were wonderful. So although we weren't home, we had the next best thing, and they made us feel very comfortable. And anything I needed, they would. And they became like family, to be honest. They were like my second family. I was here all the time with them. We did have long stints. They saw me at my best, and they saw me probably a lot of times at my worst when I wasn't dealing with Emma's illness. So although we were in hospital, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. It happened very quickly. And the support around us was, wonderful. Yeah.
Just to backtrack a little bit, what was the impact on your family of Emma being so unwell?
Although, it was Emma who was ill, but it affects your whole family. My in-laws who live down the south coast, they came up, they relocated because I had to spend so much time in hospital. They came up and lived here, and they looked after my older boys so that I could spend my time here with Emma. I didn't leave here for 10 weeks, although I'm only 20 minutes away. I didn't go home for 10 weeks. It does affect your family. My husband, he still worked. I quit work straight away as soon as Emma, well, not quit work, I took leave from work. So luckily enough, I worked for a place where they held my job. So I stopped work. And my husband changed jobs in between when she was ill. It affects the whole family. Yeah.
What was helpful for your family during that time?
The best help, I think that stuff that I got was a lot from the hospital. I was lucky enough to have a lady who was a nurse who was on this commercial travellers ward when Emma was sick. So I got to know her very well. And then she relocated her job down to the oncology ward. So that really helped because she knew us as a family, she knew Emma, she even knew our dynamics, and she made things happen so that when Emma needed a wheelchair, she made sure that things happened for us. I don't know if she was a transitional nurse, I'm not sure, but she basically, would help us, and make sure things were done. The palliative care team too were fantastic in that way. They just came and stepped in and did what they needed to do and then would go away. So it wasn't as if I ever felt they were encroaching on us or being overbearing. They seemed to come in when they needed to and then they would, and do what they needed to do and then move away. So, yeah.
Did Emma receive any care at home?
Yeah, Emma did receive some care at home. We did have our local doctor. The palliative care had contacted him in regards to Emma's care towards the end of her life and what our wishes were. We did have a nurse, a community nurse come, and also the transitional nurse Vicky, who I mentioned earlier. She used to come once a week, I think it was, and she used to go through stuff and talk about stuff and maybe where Emma was at and maybe the next stages or what was going to happen. So as much as I was in denial nearly the whole time about Emma's, I suppose, longevity, I always still thought this miracle would happen. They at least set you, not goals, but set you things that might be coming up and made you aware so you could put things in place. Yeah.
And so just thinking about Emma's funeral, what do you remember about that day?
I just remember she passed on the Tuesday and we had the funeral on the Friday, so that was fairly quick. I remember, I don't think I'd been to the shop or had my hair done in 19 months, to be honest. It wasn't a priority. And I said to my husband, I have to get something to wear for the funeral, and I wanted yellow, being Emma's favourite colour. And I went to the shop and I tried on a dress and it wasn't quite the right size. I needed a smaller size. And I said to the lady, do you have a smaller size? And she said, no, but we can get one in. When do you need it? I said, Friday. And she said, Friday. She said, are you going to a cocktail party? Or I just blurted out that I was going to my daughter's funeral, and things like that really kind of shook me because I didn't want people to be asking me. But so the funeral was, I wanted it to be about Emma, and I did speak at her funeral, which was very hard, but I wanted people to know the Emma I knew. So I wanted, for the people who might not have known her that well, I wanted to tell my Emma how I knew her, and I didn't want a minister or a priest just to be talking about Emma because I knew her the best, and I wanted people to know about it. But it was very surreal. I felt as though I was not there, but I was looking in on it. So and it took me a while to actually get to the point that we've buried Emma. So that took me a while to get to. Yeah.
How would you describe grieving?
A roller coaster. I think it does affect, grief does affect people very differently. I'm an emotional person, so I cry at the drop of a hat. I know my two boys, they often cry when they see me cry, so they will feed off my emotions. My husband he also cries, but he tries to be strong. And I suppose with grief, I think you go through the stages, but they're never ending. So I think at first I was a bit numb. I didn't believe what had happened. And then you went through even the anger stage came up at one stage. I was a bit angry and, why did it happen to Emma? All these horrible people, and my Emma got taken. And you also, grief, the sad part, the emotional part. And then as you go through it, the rawness for me does go away. So you're not as raw. When she first passed, couldn't get out of bed without crying, couldn't listen to the music without crying. Walking down the shopping aisle, you'd see something that reminded of her, you would cry. So that rawness does go away, but the sadness never does, so for me.
And so you mentioned that you and your husband are quite different.
Yep.
Has it kind of been two different paths for you both in terms of what's helped?
I think what has helped with us, and not that a positive to come out of this, but we've got a lot closer, and I think part of that is that we accept that we both grieve very differently, and that's okay. I think he understands how I deal with it, and I understand how he deals with it, and that's good because it works for us. So I go and visit Emma every week, and he doesn't, but that's okay because I go because I need to, but then he doesn't need to go every single week. So, and I think that's what's made us stronger is that we accept each other and, you know, how we deal with it.
One of the questions that a lot of parents have sort of in the beginning is they might meet someone new who asks them, how many children do you have? What answer do you give to
I think I've lied once about Emma, and I couldn't believe I did it, but it was a hairdresser that I didn't think I was ever going to see again. So I didn't want to go down the track of, you know, saying that I have a daughter that passed away and go through that. I always say I have 5 children, and that's quite easy. Then they ask, do you have boys and girls? 4 boys and 1 girl. I can still answer that. It's when they get to asking the ages of your children that it gets harder. I won't lie to Emma. I won't lie about Emma. So I do say that I have a daughter. She was 7, but she passed away. And often the reaction from that can be quite, I find that quite weird. Some people will react as though I've just told them what the weather will be like tomorrow. And I think that's that they don't know what to say back to me. But yeah, I won't lie now. So I always say I have 5 children. So yeah, and very proud of it.
What are some of the things that you and your family do to help to remember Emma?
We do, to help us remember Emma, we hold a golf day every year. We started that when Emma was first diagnosed. Family and friends wanted to help raise money to help us. It was such a great success, we just continued to do it. We help families. We find families through either friends or even in the newspaper, on the news, the radio, that need help, and we will either give them money or we might buy them if they need a wheelchair, or if they need equipment, we might then buy them equipment. Every year we go and see Emma on her birthday, and we have, you know, maybe a cake and a blow out a candle, because I have younger boys who are 2 and 4, and I want them to know Emma, so we try to include Emma into a lot of our celebrations that we have, and we often think of Emma when we celebrate. Yeah, Christmas and those kind of things are really hard, but I always want to include Emma. And for a couple of years on her birthday, we used to come to the hospital on her birthday, and we would buy some presents for the children out of the charity day, and we would hand them out to the children. This not only helped us do something positive for the day, but I think it helped my older boys know that, yeah, this is a really sad thing that's happened to our family, but we can try to do some good things by it. So, yeah. And it just helps a really sad day to try and do something positive. So.
Do you think your family's changed after having this experience?
Yeah. And I've said to my boys that, I remember 10 years ago, I think I said to friends at work, if anything ever happened to my children, you'd have to lock me up, and because I wouldn't cope. Unfortunately, you don't have a choice. I have to cope. I have other children that I have to think about. And yeah, so as much as it changes the family in a huge way, I struggle with any birthday because she's not here. Christmas isn't as bad because I think the other children make it. Mother's Day and her birthday are really hard, so, but yeah. It changes your family dynamic. Our family, my immediate family, we are closer for it, but it has caused strains and broken relationships with other parts of family. So yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
Have there been any positives to come out of this experience?
I've met wonderful people. I've realised how precious life is. I don't worry if I have to wait 10 minutes for a pizza or whatever, or if my kids aren't the top of the class, as long as they're enjoying life and enjoying themselves. My husband and I think I said earlier, are a lot closer. It's really brought us closer, which is a real positive, because I think it could really tear us apart. And I think I just appreciate that, you know, I'm here. I've had 5 blessings, my 5 children. Just one of them isn't here with me now, but I really appreciate little things in life now. So yeah.
Have you had any kind of formal support since Emma died?
The kind of support that I've had and that has helped me is to go to a lot of the bereavement groups and the support groups that are run by the hospital, the Children's Hospital. I did have contact with SIDS as well. They actually helped a lot with one of my children, with Ben, when he was not dealing with the grief as well and getting quite angry. But I have found the support groups at the hospital fantastic. I think because I'm speaking with people who know what I'm talking about, who know that when you're in the shopping aisle and you start crying for no reason, that it's okay. Or, you know, that when you see a little girl walking down the street, you start crying or whatever, it's okay. So I find those support groups really help. And I've met really wonderful people through that, who've also lost children, and also the social workers and the nurses and stuff like that. They're fantastic. So.
If there was a family that was considering a referral to palliative care, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would definitely, if their child is at that stage and they need palliative care, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend, partly because I think as a parent, and if your child is that sick, you're sometimes not thinking of things, sometimes, and it can be a bit of a blur. And I found that palliative care would come in. They know what things that you need. They know the support you need. They know the type of questions to ask you. They know the kind of situations that you have to think about that you don't want to think about, like where do you want your child to be when they pass? Little things like that, they can come in and will help you along the way so that you can actually, you know, get your way through it as best way you can. So, yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like people to know about your experience or about Emma or anything?
This whole experience with Emma has, it has changed me. I'm now 5 years. We've just had her 5th anniversary. I wouldn't say that it gets easier. The rawness does go away, but time spent without her is also very hard. I don't know what she would look like now to a certain degree. I don't know if she'd like One Direction or what member of One Direction she would like. Would she have a boyfriend? What class? Little things like that, they do make it very hard for you. Because of something out of my control that I couldn't control, I've had to learn to live with this. I do think I do still try to look at the positives in anything I can see, and I know that what happened to our family is horrific and horrible, but there are so many families who are still worse off than our family. So if they can get through life, and then so can we. So, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.